All right, all right. So, as you know, last week we talked about Tyree Nichols, the man who unfortunately passed away, was killed by five police officers. I think it happened in the beginning of January, like January
Mm.
7th, I believe was the exact date of it. The story today is unfortunately another tragic story. New Jersey Councilwoman Eunice Dunford was shot around 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday night in her SUV, and she was pronounced dead on the scene. There's still a lot of not really a ton of information as far as like the motive and all that kind of goes for this incident. They're still doing some investigating, but it's just incredibly sad. When anybody is uh, died due to gun violence.
Mhm.
But you can't help but think because she was a councilwoman, like, was this politically motivated? Um, and it was also a black woman, so could it have been racially motivated?
Yeah.
She was a part of the Republican Party, and not that I'm bringing up anything political, but it could go either way
Yeah.
in terms of violence towards her. Like I said, the motive hasn't been confirmed yet. She's been serving terms from 2022 to 2024, and I think re-election is coming up
Yeah.
sometime soon too.
I think one of the things we have to, be sensitive to when we talk about violence that begets individuals of color or just individuals in general. If someone loses their life, that
Yes.
is potentially a child, a mother, a brother, a sister, a cousin. And if you've ever struggled with loss in a sense, because we've all lost someone, you can empathize with her family first because
Always.
of the loss that
First,
they are going through and processing in a sense, because you probably expected to see that person another day. Like, she may have had plans for this weekend, a birthday party, a get
yes.
together. Super Bowl is coming up, so I'm sure she made plans with friends to gather and watch that. But now we have to pause and say, okay, well, this person is no longer a part of that equation, and it
Right.
was because of a senseless act of violence.
Mhm.
Because it was, a gun was used, that only amplifies it, but it was legitimately a senseless act of violence. If there was an upset or a disagreement that she may have had with someone, whether it
Whatever
be
it
on the
was.
political side, right, whether it be on the political side, friends, family, an ex, you name it, there are always ways to get through any form of disagreement, upset, misunderstanding that shouldn't lead to someone losing their life.
Exactly. And and I
Well
think,
said.
a lot of times we get so desensitized to just what you said, to how it's impacting the loved ones that are there, because it's happening so frequently. And like, we easily, she could be a mother, she can be an aunt, she is a grandmother, a daughter, but she could have kids there. So we definitely want to keep, and the spouse, we want to keep them lifted up in prayer always.
Yeah,
Amen.
exactly. And anytime a life is lost, and like you said, it happens it's so saturated right now. We have to do this every week through the grapevine, and I can't help but notice that most of the time the breaking news stories is about violence and death and people losing their lives, and it's awful. And I just struggle with, like, should we talk about it?
Yeah.
But it's, do you ignore the problem?
No.
Or and that's also something that I think is hard as like just a citizen, just kind of viewing it all too.
Well, with living comes death. It is a part of it. And I think that most of us who have any type of religious belief have come to that understanding.
Yeah.
However, we don't want to necessarily address or deal with that portion because the life that we're living is most of the time so pleasant. Um, and when we think of the news media or the cycles and how that goes, a lot of negativity is typically publicized before we talk about something positive.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about the murders that have taken place or the killings of individuals of color at the hands of police or just in general, that has tended to lead rather than someone receiving a scholarship for school or
Correct.
a business being successful or the country lowering the debt threshold, you name it. Those are all positive things, but unfortunately, when we are driving down the street, we don't look at the pretty car as long as we look at the wreck. So those are things that we have to really come to grips with as a country, rather
Yes.
than just focusing on those things and really uplifting rather than focusing on the negative that takes place. Again, it is a part of our lives and it's part of day to day, but I would much rather hear about something more positive because that would make my day go a lot better.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Sure. For
agree
sure.
100%.